So can I tell the story of someone we met that actually came to the Lord through VR Church?
Please. Well, before you go there though, let me just mention the first time I think we ever really got interested in VR was a friend of ours from YWAM, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I remember I was on Instagram and suddenly I'm watching this video of this guy standing in his living room with the VR headset on and the controllers, and he's leading someone through the sinner's prayer. And I was like, whoa,
You're like, where do I put this in my mind?
happening?
Yeah.
Like, I have no grid for this. And so that was the first time that you too, right? Was that your first time?
First time I ever saw
Yeah.
someone doing real ministry in a VR context.
Yes. And so the awesome thing was that this year we got to actually meet someone who came to the Lord through like in virtual reality. So we met this guy named Stuart, and his story is, it's pretty intense. He went through a long season of his life where he was in just a really, really dark place. He was very depressed, like suicidal, and he started escaping his life and going into virtual reality.
That same app, VR Chat.
Yes,
same
VR
place
Chat.
That third, church we visited.
Yeah, so he was spending his time in VR Chat and for hours upon hours upon hours daily. And he got to a point where he was like, I cannot keep living like this. My life is in total shambles. I have to escape my life and go into VR. He had grown up as a Christian, like in a church. He had grown up in a church, and he was like, wait a second, maybe I should go to a church to get my life straightened out.
But instead of going to a physical church on the corner, the place where he lived was basically
that
VR.
was like his
so he decided to go to church in his environment, which was VR Chat.
The part that's also crazy about this story is he literally said, even though I grew up in church, I never really understood the gospel or God. That's
and hadn't prayed before
to
too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for the first time inside of this space, he's praying, going to a church.
So he finds a church in virtual reality. Yeah. And then ends up giving his life to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And then he's faced with this, like his whole life is turned around. He's not depressed anymore. He got set free from being like in that deep, deep darkness. And then he was like, wait a second, there are so many people who are in the same exact place where I was in that terrible darkness. And I went to go reach those people. And so now the amazing thing is he's actually a full-time staff with Crew?
He's transitioning into currently being full-time with Crew.
Yes, going into VR specifically to reach the lost. And so one of the stories that we heard from him was wild, where it blew my mind, kind of like that initial video of the guy standing in his living room praying the sinner's prayer with someone. But he said, so Stuart was telling you the story, and he said that he was in VR Chat, and there's this one character there, and his avatar was Darth Vader, but he was like known for being like the Darth Vader in that area. And so like everyone knew who he was, and the guy always used this voice distortion, so he sounded like Darth Vader. It's his whole persona. Yeah. So he ended up talking to this guy about the Lord, but then they had like a private meeting together in VR Chat, and the guy turned off his voice distortion
and just talks about life, all the things he's been going through.
But he never, that's like his whole thing. Like he does not, like in the TV show, The Mandalorian, like he doesn't take his helmet off. Like this guy doesn't turn off his voice, but he ended up giving his life to the Lord. Wow. And so he's been, getting discipled. So that was one thing where I was like, what on earth is happening in there?